Hey guys, it's Tammy. Today I'm going to share a recipe with you that I had mentioned on a video several months ago that I found out through research was actually something from my heritage that related back to the Indians, which I've got part Chippewa Indian in me. And at the time, I didn't know this related back to the Indians, but I found out through doing some research on this actual bread to find out its roots. And I thought it was pretty cool, and I wanted to share it with you. It's a very simple recipe, which, most Indian type recipes and stuff like that usually were, pretty simple recipes. And personally, I love simple recipes, in the aspect of I get excited about the Great Depression type foods and stuff like that, how they made something out of nothing when they didn't have much. And a lot of times those are some of the best foods, the best comfort foods that there is to me. I'll speak for myself. But I wanted to share it with you. This one's going to be a little bit more modernized, and the reason I say that is because of self-rising flour. Originally when this was beginning, I'm sure, we all know that the Chippewa Indians back in the day, they just ground their own flour or ground their own meal. And this actually it's called Pon Bread. That's what we've always called it all my life, was Pon Bread. And I never knew why, like I said, until I researched it. But then researching this, I found out that they did it with corn or they did it with flour. They did it with both. There's one called corn pone and one called flour pone. And they're both made the same way, just one uses flour and one uses corn. The use of the self-rising, naturally, sorry, that's my stove heating up. I've got my oven preheating to 400, by the way. Okay, so just let me go ahead and get on with this. Like I said, I've got that preheated at 400. And I'm going to this is simple, guys, as simple as it can get. Now, some people, my mother, when she made this, she liked it super thin so that it would get thin as you baked it, and it would get crispier. And I love the crispy. But at the same time, I like it with a little bit of meat to it. So I'm sure back in the day with the Indians, they didn't have any type of leaven in this, so it ended up being a pretty flat bread. But I tried it both ways. I tried it the way that they made it, and there's no difference other than the type of flour they used was not self-rising, and this is self-rising. And I like it better this way, but it's only because that's how I was raised making it. And I'm assuming that my grandmother and stuff, before self-rising flour came out, they made it, with plain flour. But in my mom's generation, self-rising flour was out, and that's what everybody used. But all I did was I put me about a cup's worth of flour in here, and enough milk to make me a decent little batter. Now I've seen my mom use water in this, so there's an even simpler, and it's really good that way. I've done it that way. And I'm just making it up to be about like pancake batter. You can make this thicker, or you can make it thinner, whichever suits you. I kind of like it in between, not as thin as my mom used to like it, but not as thick as it can be. Not as thick as cornbread, I'll put it that way. So I kind of like it in between. And that's all there is to this. Self-rising flour and some milk to the thickness you like it. Now I've got my pan, but I'm actually using a stoneware pan. I've seen Mom use cast iron skillet. I've seen her use aluminum pie pans, for that matter. But I'm using my stone because this is what I like to bake my cornbread and stuff in. And I put some butter in there to get it good and melted down so it won't stick. And I'm going to simply pour this in there. I like doing it in a hot pan because, for one thing, it helps it not to stick. And it also gets the baking process going fairly even. And I'm just going to pour this in here. So this is called, like I said, Pon Bread. And, growing up, I ain't going to say every morning, but I think it's more like when blackberries were in or when apples was in, we would have this a lot. And the reason then is because, and I'll show you here, we'll stick this in there for probably about 20, 25 minutes, depending, It also depends on your likeness. Some people like stuff lighter than others, and some people like things crispier than others. So according to your likeness with that. But that's simple. That's it on the Pon Bread. Let it do its thing and be done. Now this here is, like I said, we used to have this a lot whenever blackberry season was in or apples were in and different things like that because we ate it with it. It looks like it's going to look like a big old biscuit, and that's what it basically is. We didn't put no oil in it or anything. We just done the milk and the flour. That's it. Now, if you want to fancy it up and add you some milk or add you some oil or whatever you want to add to it, some shortening like you would a biscuit, that's fine too. I'm just showing you how we did it growing up and how it's super good, just as simple as that is. It's super good because what my fat's going to be is my butter. Because that's what I got to slather on it. Cut it like a piece of pie. We'll do that here in a little. And put some butter on it like you would a piece of cornbread. Oh, good stuff. But this here is my blackberries. These are blackberries that I canned this year, 2019. And it's actually, I basically make a blackberry filling. Now, sometimes we would do just regular dumplings. And this is basically the same thing as dumplings would be, blackberry dumplings. But it's not actually about the dumplings. But you do use the thickening with your flour and such. Let me tell you what I got in this one. This one actually got cornstarch in it. I'm sorry. But when we were growing up, we would thicken it with flour a lot of times. But due to me canning this the way I did, this is how I did this. I had 10 cups of berries, and it can be blackberries, it can be raspberries, it can be peaches, it can be strawberries. This is a universal filling, or I would say dumpling without the dumplings, I guess you would say. Half a cup of water. Well, first of all, let me just tell you this. Take a half a cup of water in a kettle, melt down a cup and a half of sugar, and 5 tablespoons of lemon juice. Get that all mixed up and get the sugar melted down, and then add your 10 cups of berries. And cook it for a moment or two, just enough to get it, and then put it in your jars. For that recipe, it would take 4 pints is what that would take. And then I've water bathed it for 30 minutes. So that's simple, and it's there. It's ready for me to do. All I got to do is have my Pon Bread. But when we were growing up doing this, we didn't always, I know this probably sounds a little strange for some people. Maybe it don't, I don't know. But in our home growing up, I've mentioned before, we always had biscuit and gravy every day of the week except for Sunday. And on Sunday, we would either have oatmeal and toast or rice. And that's what we had. And just because Sunday was getting ready for church and it was a lot simpler thing to make or whatever. But every other day of the week we had biscuit and gravy and either sausage or bacon or ham or whatever we had available at the time. Sometimes deer gravy, sometimes little deer steaks, just the little thin cuts that we would fry up in butter with salt and pepper. Super good. And have it with our gravy. And then in seasons, like I said, with the blackberries and the apples and stuff, Mom would take and cook up some berries in a kettle, and I'm going to simply just do this. Give you an idea. I'm not going to actually use this whole thing because I don't want it all, and I'm going to put the rest back in the refrigerator. Or I'm actually going to put this in the freezer now that I've opened this, because if it's just me and my husband, we don't eat as much of it, so I'm just going to make enough for me, actually, at the moment. And then I'm simply going to put a reusable lid on it, and I will put it actually in the freezer just because I won't be eating on this for a couple times. And I'll put this on the stove. You may have to add a little bit of water just to get it soaked up a little bit. And you may not, just a bit. And I'm actually going to add just a drop or two just to get it started. Cook that on medium heat. It's already cooked, so all I got to do is heat that up. Now, guys, I meant to mention, when you heat these up and your berries up and stuff, it is a little more concentrated because of the berries. So it is okay to add some water to it. And the reason I say that is because if you do want to still drop you some dumplings in it, you can still drop you some dumplings in this. So don't feel like, just because it's set up this way with the cornstarch and everything that you can't make dumplings out of it, because you very well can make dumplings. I've made dumplings out of it with this. So just, drop your dumplings in it. But for this recipe with my pone bread, I'm not going to do that. I'm just heating this up. I've added a little bit of water. I'm going to add just a little bit more. Just to keep it probably a little thinner than a gravy consistency. Like a biscuit gravy is what I like. But that's me. So get it to consistency you like it. Alright, you guys, he's out of the oven. Show you what it looks like. And as I was saying though, this would kind of be like a dessert for us after eating breakfast. And if you've seen the other videos, which I'll try to put a link on the bottom of this or in the top one or the other, where I done the homemade hot syrup. And we use this with the hot syrup as well. So it's really, really good stuff, in my opinion. Now, like I said, this is just like a big old biscuit. This is hot, guys. I'm having a hard time handling it. Sorry. And I'm going to cut this in half. Peel that bugger back. I'm going to show you this. Woo, woo, hot. You see that goodness? It's good stuff, but it's going to be even better. Then you take you some good old butter. And this is what, like I said, we call pone bread. We ate it with thickened apples, thickened blackberries, thickened any kind of food like that you can think of. And you can also use it for pie fillings, like I said with that. Sorry, got something in for me. Then I'll stick my berries in here. See, they're just kind of thickened up. This is already sweetened because we added it when I cooked it originally. And then I'm going to add a little butter to this. See, these are kind of thickened. Stick that butter in there. If you had you some dumplings in there, it's good with dumplings plus the pone bread too. And then you take your bread, which everybody's got their way of eating stuff like this. But I always have to do it like this. Just because that's what I'm used to. It's really hot. I dip my bread in there as well. Look at that. Look at that, look at that, look at that. That's good stuff, guys. I feel dog. This is an amazingly great little simple food. Sometimes I use it just for breakfast itself, which is what I'm doing this morning. This is just simply my breakfast. It's not overly healthy, but I'm eating berries. But it wasn't something we did all the time. But we did do it at least, during seasons of berries coming in and such like that. But anyway, I think you'll like this if you try it. And this super simple pone bread that we picked up from the Indians that had no idea that that's where it originated from, that had got passed down through the family and tweaked and changed a little bit when it comes to the flour that we used. But it made it super good. And corn pone is the same exact way, except you use cornmeal instead of flour. And that's all you use is the cornmeal and either milk or water, either one. So it makes a great little meal, guys. And you can even fry this too. I have fried this. We call it flitters when I fry it. And I've got a video on that. I think I'll talk about this in that video. I'll try to link those, and you may have already seen them. But the flitters is the same way. You just fry it like you would a pancake. Same exact batter. No different. And just fry it in like you would a pancake. And then eat it with these type of things as well. It's really good with a runny egg. And that's what the video is about. But anyway, I thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you a great deal. I hope you're all having a great week this week. And until I see you next time, God bless you guys.